Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. My name is Scott Morgan, we're out the Motor City Madmouth and King of the Road. What a great crew I have here today. I really don't know if it's a regular Inside the Pigskin crew or a little bit of three chicks in a pod, even though I snapped up two chicks in a pod for this show. At any rate, Katie Ebling, who's been getting a lot more airtime lately, but she's getting better with every broadcast, and her and Jennifer are establishing themselves with quite a tandem. Candy, welcome back.
Thanks, Scott. Glad to be here.
And Steve Ballesteri, my right hand man, brother from another mother, etc. Dot dot dot. Let everybody know how they can find you. And welcome back, Steve.
Yeah, it's great to be back. We got a Thursday night game getting ready to start. I think it already has started now. So um, it's always great to be here. We always have great conversations. So, yeah. How about them Patriots?
Yeah, I really, unfortunately, have to acknowledge that in this show because I knew you were going to be on, as you always will. But I'm going to bring that up a little later so we soften the blow with some pretty strong stuff. And Mel Farr Jr., welcome back.
Hey, it's great to be back.
Yeah.
That was a little, I guess that was a little dig at Jen there about the Patriots and her Lions prediction this year. And I told you, 6 to 8 wins. That's the ceiling.
And Jennifer, welcome back.
I've already, eaten my humble pie. I'll continue to do so. But I was wrong about the Lions, but I had, high hopes. And thank you for having me back again. I enjoy being here, even while I'm eating humble pie, and leather soles do not taste good in your mouth.
Well,
But it's the best for your diet, Jen. Humble
That's
pie
true.
is, no calories.
But the good news is you guys got a new coach there, or going to have a new coach.
Yeah, we're going to be getting into that too. Boy, I like the way the GMGA, great minds think alike when I put these topics together. Before we get to any of the storylines, one of the most intriguing storylines was so good. We had it on the Sports Exchange, but with practically a new crew tonight, I thought I'd incorporate it into today's agenda. Marshawnlynch is joining Amazon's Thursday night football team. Steve, what are your thoughts about Marshawn taking the Amazon plunge?
Hey, I think it's great. He always does a lot for the community. In fact, tonight they had a special where, he was in Chicago and he was working with inner city kids playing football, and the kids all got into it big time. And, he was actually spending time with them. It wasn't just a meet and greet type thing. He actually got so psyched up, he put on pads and was going against some of these kids. It was funny to watch because, like, the kids' eyes got big when they collided with Marshawn. He's a load to begin with, but I think he eased up on him a bit. But I think it's great that he's going to be on there. He has his own personality, and I think it's going to come out. He was never one for the media. Now he is one.
Well, yeah. I mean, number one, I'm going to get fined if I don't talk to you guys. So he shows up just to make an appearance to stay out of his checkbook. It's not like you're dealing with a situation back in the day when Jim McMahon and Pete Rozelle had it with each other, and McMahon would only go ahead and wear the Rozelle name on top of his headband. That was funny, but with all due respect, I think, and I'll defer to everybody and I'll have my opinion last, but hey, we all know about the debacle last week, and maybe people will remember the Amazon thing for the personalities they're bringing. Hey, it's a new platform for the NFL. So if you can bring in people like Richard Sherman, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and now you bring on Marshawn Lynch, more power to them for doing it. All right, Jennifer, we'll defer it over to you. Marshawn Lynch joining Amazon. What are your thoughts?
Is he going to say more than they pay me to be here? I like Marshawn Lynch. This will be a good fit because he's still in the limelight without being out front and center, especially with what went down in Vegas a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
So, I think this will be good.
What do you think?
Marshawn's funny.
What do you think, Mel, from one running back to another?
I'm looking forward to it. See what he brings. I mean, I think it's an opportunity for fans to see a different side of Marshawn that they've probably never seen before, other than what they've seen. And Jen and Steve talked about. He wasn't really one to talk to the media. And I think people will get an opportunity to see. I mean, we've seen some of his personality with some of the commercials that he's done and some of the things that he's done post-football. But, we've always known that Marshawn's been a good guy in the community. And I'm looking forward to see what he's going to bring to the broadcast. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you, Andy.
He's going to do some 3 to 4 minute segments called In Your City before every game. So he's going to go to the cities and he's going to tell us a little story in the cities where tonight it was the Chicago, and meeting up with the kids and that interaction. And I love that because let's face it, the players play for how long, but they're part of the community too. And I love seeing them give back to the community and interacting with the kids, making the kids feel that, they're humans. They're not just football players that play on a field. They're actually humans that, live and talk and, they can bring a lot of, I think it'll help the game. A lot of people like to be entertained, and let's face it, that's why ESPN started with the Manning brothers, and you can watch them and have them commentary, and I think it brings a different perspective to those of us that have never played the game. So I think it's cool.
Well, not only that, these additions, I think, help the younger generation a little bit too to relate to some of these guys. Now, as far as I'm concerned with Marshawn Lynch, Steve and I have known pretty well. Jen, you're just a pup in this business being in the media, but you'll learn soon enough. These guys, they don't like us. They really don't. I mean, everybody wonder, oh, God, what am I going to say to these guys? They got blown out of proportion. But when they leave the game, they want to be part of us because they know that's another career for them. Right, Steve? Do you get that feeling?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a way for them to continue to, be around the sport because when these guys retire, they're still very young. I mean, they're still young men, and they all love the sport, obviously, and it's a way for them to still be involved and make a nice chunk of change without getting beat up every Sunday.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, nobody likes us when we want to ask them questions, but when they want to be a part of us, hey, we're media people now. Okay, whatever. But Marshawn Lynch, to me, one thing I always like about athletes is not only what you did after the field, but it's what you've done after your career. And some of the criteria that I have when I invite guests on the show, to me, is your career is great. What have you done afterwards? And that, whether I don't care what sport it is, I'll invite guests with baseball, football, whatever the case is. And it's refreshing because let's face it, we all know that when you're in the professionals or major leagues, you only have a certain shelf life. So you have to be able to make the adjustment as such.
Well, let's face it, Scott. Tom Brady already signed a contract. Once he's done, he's going to go back into the booth too.
Yeah,
He should have been there this year. He would have kept his marriage.
yeah, right. I was waiting. What a great segue, Steve and Candy. What a great segue. In fact, that was such a great segue. We are going to talk about Tom Brady. I swear, when you have familiar people on these broadcasts that know what I think about, that's a dream broadcast. And with you guys, it is. So with that said, let's stay on the Tom Brady thing for a moment, all right, or longer. Tom Brady joins an ownership group of Major League Pickleball. Okay, now let me go over the particulars on this one. This blew me away, which is why we had on the Sports Exchange. And yes, Jennifer, I was thinking about you when I wanted to put it into today's lineup. So we had to transition a little bit easier. But here are the particulars, okay? Major League Pickleball founder Steve Kuhn, the mission is to reach 40 million pickleball players by, I think, 2030, which is about 8 years out. And Major League Pickleball will increase from 12 to 16, double its events to 6. And it will increase the player prize money to over $2 million. Now, what makes this such an interesting thing is Brady, along with other owners like Drew Brees, LeBron James, Draymond Green, and Kevin Love have already gone out there and invested. And Brady's going to be involved with Kim Clijsters, a tennis pro. That's pretty impressive. So, all right, Steve, since you're wondering about a man saving his marriage, why don't you lead off with this one and tell me about your thoughts about Tom Brady keeping a competitive thing in the form of pickleball. The only thing I'll say before you start, Steve, is the only thing I knew about pickleball is one of my best friends ended up breaking both wrists playing pickleball in LA, and he had some major work to be done. I'm not going to divulge his name; it's not relevant, and I wouldn't do it because I'm over the hill and through the woods. So go ahead.
Well, I'll show you how over the hill I am. Until 2 years ago, I didn't even know what pickleball was. And then when we moved down here to Southwest Florida, our local gym, they were like, "Oh, if you want to, go into the gymnasium, you can sign up for pickleball." And I looked at the lady kind of strange, and I was like, "What the heck is that?" She's like, "You don't know what pickleball is?" And I was like, "Not a clue." Then she explained it to me, and I was like, "I never even knew it existed." But getting back to Brady and Kim Clijsters, I mean, I think it's great they're investing their money in something that could catch on, and all the more power to them. Brady won't be hurting for money. I mean, he already got that deal, with the league. He's going to step right in to a analyst job, which I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to pay him quite well, and he's not going to have to pay Giselle anything.
Right.
She might end up having to pay him.
Yeah, probably.
Because, I mean, she makes a heck of a lot more money than he does. So she still rakes in about $50 million a year.
Who's this? Clijster?
No, Giselle Bundchen.
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't heard any in the marriage front, so I've been kind of.
Well, they both hired divorce lawyers, so it kind of leads me to believe it's moving forward.
Okay. Well,
but they did the same thing in 2015.
Oh, I've never heard that.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Come on, Steve, read People Magazine more often.
Well, besides the National Enquirer, that's my go-to for news stuff.
All right, well, you know what, Jennifer, pick up the conversation from there with Tom Brady and pickleball.
I'm with Steve. Honestly, I had never really heard of pickleball before. So have fun, go at it. Stranger things have taken root and become something fun for people to enjoy, watch, and participate in. Well,
just so you know, Steve, it says it took you 2 years ago to figure it out. I didn't know anything about it for a year, up till about a year. So you're ahead of me. I'm not afraid to admit it either. All right, Mel, give me your pickleball thoughts before we get into some heavy duty stuff.
I had never heard of pickleball till Drew Brees brought the team. I didn't know what it was, and I still really don't understand it, to be honest with you. But getting back to Tom, he retired for 40 days, and I think during that time, he must have realized, man, I'm just not cut out for this. The wife, he's got honeydew list this long. The kids, man, they're jumping all over me. I'm better off just, letting these defensive linemen chase me as opposed to dealing with this all day long. And he decided to go back to football. But, him and get involved. Obviously, these guys are very motivated, highly driven, competitive individuals, of people that you talked about that are buying these franchises. And I don't know how much one of these franchise costs. I was just trying to look it up. But, worst case scenario, it's a tax deduction for these guys. Best case scenario, the thing catches on fire like some of the other things that people have got involved with. And they make a ton of money on it.
Steve, remember I told you when we did a show around March, I didn't think Brady's retirement was any good. You looked at me and you weren't as I think I said, no, Steve, give the guy a little time and he'll reconsider, and it kind of works that way. So we did a show with Tom Corrin at that time out in Tampa. We had brought him on after I had surgery. So
hey, Mel, I was Googling the same thing. And to buy a franchise with American Pickleball Association, you'll need at least $50,000 in liquid capital and a minimum net worth of $75,000. Franchisees can expect to make a total of investment of at least $35,000.
I think we can pool our money together and get us one.
That's it.
Let's do it.
This will be the South Florida Tribune pickleball champions.
Well, you know what? Hey, listen. In a moment, though, I want to mention something that Jennifer brought up on her show the other day about the 3 Chicks in a Pod with ESPN. But before we do that, though, Candy, give me your thoughts on pickleball before we have a little lighthearted moment with the name of your show.
So pickleball it combines the elements of tennis, badminton, and ping pong. So you have a paddle. It's a smaller court. You don't move around as much. It's really good for your hand-eye coordination. I actually heard on the radio today that Tom Brady plays pickleball with his kids almost every single day. I also heard that he was buying they had bought Miami Lakes estate that they were going to build on, and on their property they were going to build a pickleball court that they could play on. I think it's a very interesting. It's more fast paced, less injury. People can play it longer in your life.
Broke up wrist playing, didn't you? Somebody just say that.
Scott did, yeah. Scott's friend fell playing it and broke both wrists, believe it or not. So you can get injured, but it's not like someone's going to tackle you, like, you know. But so it sounds like a fun sport. I mean, I played tennis for years, and I think it's cool. I think for them to invest into a sport that kids can play as well, that helps keep America active. I think that's what we need, because so many kids are stuck behind their phones or their tablets these days, and they're very sedentary. So I think it's really good to be able to play a sport, and it only takes two people. It doesn't take a lot. It takes a paddle. It's not an expensive sport to play. So I think it's good.
Yeah, no. All right, Candy, why don't you give everybody let them know how they can get a hold of us.
So you are watching us on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Please subscribe. You can go see our written content at www.southfloridatribune.com. If you'd like to advertise, call 954-304-4941. You can catch the audio portion of our show on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, Spotify, or any place you get your podcast. Again, please subscribe to the South Florida YouTube channel. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you very much, Candy. All right, so we talk about Tom Brady. So, Jennifer, remember you mentioned it, and I know you talked about on your social media page, that 3 Chicks in a Pod only isn't on Sideline Sports. Why don't you give everybody a little overview about what just took place? I don't know if it's a compliment or a lawyer to be hired, but why don't you go into a little bit more specifics?
I've thought about both, but hey, we're gonna take it as a compliment right now. But obviously, 3 Chicks in a Pod was the first all-3 sports show for just women only, and it was my idea a while ago. I tagged in my friend Carrie. I was like, "Do you care if we tag in my girl Megan?" Because the 3 of us are the only. Now Candy's on there too, so the 4 of us are the only women on Sideline Sports Network too. So, they launched this past week. ESPN did a 3 women sports podcast. So I'm taking it as a compliment. I've got video proof that it was us first. We have it on StreamYard. We have tweets. We have Facebook. We have everything to back up like our proofs. So, but I'm not worried about that. I mean, I'm a little upset that they didn't approach us to headline it, because it was our baby, and I could really use that side money. I'm not gonna lie, guys. How else am I gonna own my own pickleball team? So
What do they call the podcast?
It's a compliment that we had a great idea, and other people are taking notice of us. I take it as a huge compliment that ESPN is checking out Sideline Sports to see what new and creative venues that we have.
What are they calling their podcast?
Huh?
What are they calling?
I don't remember.
Okay.
And why would I advertise them when I want to advertise 3 Chicks in a Pod?
Understood.
I don't need to give. They got it. That 4 little word network has enough advertisement. We don't.
Understood.
Chicks and salsa, 3 Chicks in a Pod. Both of them are great.
And who knows what else Jennifer and Candy are going to cook up. I know they've talked about it, haven't gone any further, but that's why they're currently inside the picks and not only cross promote their brand, but also be a part of what we're doing and give them opportunities to get out there as well. All right, with that said, Steve, I know you've been waiting for this part of the show. Don't remind me about the 29-0 loss the Lions suffered there against a guy who I actually think will probably eventually be the number one starting quarterback. But all right, Steve, let's get to the New England Patriots portion of the show. As much as this is hard for me to deal with,
Well,
what happened?
I said on here last week that the Patriots are going to score 30 points.
Well,
I missed that by one, but I was way off on the Lions score because I thought it was going to be 30-28. And I was shocked at the way the Patriots defense was able to shut down Detroit's offense, which we know their defense has been struggling awful. But their offense has been cooking all year. They're averaging 35 points a game. And for them to hold them to 0 points and 0 for 6 on fourth down and 4 for 18 on third and fourth down, I mean, that's pretty unheard of, even against a poor team. So I thought the defense played well. Part of that, I thought, was the fact that the Lions weren't confident with their kicker. They had a replacement kicker in. And I was listening to the pregame show, and they were talking about the winds were swirling down there. And they said the Lions kicker on the open end of the stadium was missing a lot of kicks because the wind was blowing it from right to left.
Okay.
So that might have influenced Dan Campbell's decision a couple of times not to go for long field goals. But overall, I thought Patriots defense, especially Matthew Judon, was outstanding.
Right.
He was in the backfield, it seemed like every play, and they have some good tackles on that team. So that was something that maybe they can build off of. The Lions defense, I mean, by the end of the game, I think they had 6 defensive backs out. It was like they were just trying to find bodies to throw back there. So that was a horrible thing. And that collision that Davion Smith had, that was scary. I saw that, and I just saw him crumple to the ground. And then everyone went running onto the field, and that's never a good sign. They brought the ambulance out, and they whistled his dad down from the stands, and that's never a good sign. But, I heard later on that he flew home with the team, so I'm glad he's okay. I hope he's back soon. But, yeah, it was an ugly game if you're Detroit. It was a great game sitting in the hometown stands.
All right, but the real question here, and I mentioned it briefly, now I'm going to go into more detail about it. Do you foresee Bailey Zappi replacing Mac Jones as a starting quarterback?
No.
You don't?
No, okay. No way. I mean, he's played well for 2 games, but they were very limiting what they were asking him to do. That offense was pared way down. If you noticed, once they got in the red zone, they barely threw the football. That's why they had so many field goals. They had one red zone drive where I think it was 11 plays and they only threw 2 passes. They had another red zone drive where they had 7 plays inside the red zone now, and he only threw once. So, yeah, he's playing well within himself. He's only a game manager, but they're not asking him to go out and win the football game. And, he's way too soon in his development to be even considered that. This is Mac Jones's team. When he comes back, he's going to be the starter.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes Belichick likes to play with the particulars where he bring in a guy, and then all of a sudden he gets a little excited and goes to that. We all know how a Brady Bledsoe thing worked out. I'm not comparing that by any stretch.
Right.
Brady.
But, they drafted a lot of quarterbacks in the Brady era. And, Brady is being as competitive as he is.
Right.
He reveled in that competition. And, I think Mac Jones is the same type of personality. They're not the same quarterback, obviously, but, I think Jones will welcome the competition. So,
well, Candy and I were at Inter Miami against Montreal, and I can tell you right now, as the Lions-Patriots score turned out to be 29-0, Inter Miami lost 3-1 in Inter Miami, and I'm talking about Major League Soccer. The only goal that they had was an own goal toward the end of the game. So you want to talk about a game where Inter Miami, that game was a joke. although they're going to the playoffs, more power to them. So it's not like I missed a whole lot going to one last soccer game compared to the frustration that would have been the Lions and the Patriots. So, all right. So, Jennifer, any quick thoughts on it? This topic was really brought in mainly for Steve, but you guys are welcome to provide some insights before I get to other ones.
I'm actually going to disagree with Steve on one thing. I think Zappy's going to end up being the starting QB. Now, yeah, of course, he was very limited right now. He hasn't had the reps Mac Jones has had. By all accounts, Zappy has a much better attitude, though. He's more willing to learn. He doesn't, every single professional athlete has an ego, right? You have to be that caliber athlete. But he's not completely stuck on himself. On top of that, he has 100% support from Robert Kraft, which does go far, even though Bill is, coach and GM. I could see Zappy taking over or taking more of a role on the field, even if not complete starter. But I could see it the next year or two, not this year, but the next year or two. I could see him beating Mac Jones out.
What about you, Mel?
It's a good problem to have. Competition only brings the best out in everybody. I don't see that that Bailey Zappi will be the starting quarterback. I think that's Mac Jones' job. They drafted him in the first round. They drafted him in the first round for a reason. It's never a problem having two good quarterbacks. I believe that the competition will bring out the best in both of them. And if Mac Jones is having to look over his shoulder and he's concerned about the guy behind him, that's only good for the Patriots organization as a whole, for that club. The Lions, I talked about it earlier in the year that rah-rah stuff or that emotion will only get you so far. So, you got the Jimmies and the Joes, but now they need to get the X's and the O's. And that's the problem that I think they have, is they're not teaching these guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It seems like they're thinking too much. So maybe they're trying to do too much on the defensive side of the ball, and these guys aren't able to run around fast and loose. Offensively, I didn't watch any of this game, unfortunately, this past week. But I really didn't think that they would get skunked like that. I thought it was going to be I thought they were going to win because I predicted they would win. So especially against a third-string quarterback, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for the defensive coordinator, to have a little confidence boost here. But I was totally taken aback by the score and by how they performed. And I can only say that again, that all that yelling and screaming and cussing players out, it's only going to get you so far. Sometimes they need to be taught some technique, have some maybe scale down the playbook a little bit and do what they do well, figure out what it is that they do well on the defensive side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball, and just go out there and do it. I don't care if it's 10 plays. Just run those 10 plays to perfection.
It was funny, Mel. I thought, Detroit, where they've been struggling, they know the Patriots are going to try to run the football. I thought they were going to stack the box this week and force Bailey Zappi to beat them. I thought that was the smart play on their part. But on the very first play from scrimmage, they play action pass and hit Hunter Henry down the seam. I think it was 23 or 24 yards. And after that, they started backing off, and the Patriots running game took over. Ramondre Stevenson had 161 yards on the day.
Yeah, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, and I thought the Patriots offensive line played their best game of the year because they were constantly getting that push that, if you're a running football team, that's what you look for, is they're getting that push where, the running backs aren't getting hit until they're beyond the line of scrimmage. Right. That generally translates to good, results in the running game. So they have a lot of work to do defensively.
Any thoughts, Candy, about this contest?
As a Packer fan, bring on the Lions. They can't defend anybody. And to be honest with you, as a Packer fans right now, we need an easy game like that. And I'm not saying it would be an easy game because I know the Lions always play the Packers tough. But I was really surprised. I did not obviously watch the game. I've been really surprised that their defense has been as poor as it's been. this year. I was not expecting that. Never been a big Jared Goff fan. I was not a big Stafford fan, but I like Stafford better than I like Goff. So it'll be interesting to see where they go the rest of the year. Now, I mean, they have some. Who do you guys play? The Lions play the Cowboys this week, and then they play the Dolphins, and then they get the Packers. So you have an interesting schedule coming up. I think
they got a bye week coming up, don't they?
They have a bye week, and then it's
Then they play the Cowboys.
Correct.
Yeah,
they have a bye this week.
Yeah. It's tough when you get stung 29-0 going to a bye week, and then Matt Patricia's laughing.
Well, that's when it's time to self-scout. I mean,
yeah,
you have to take this week, look at the problems you're having, because they have busts all over the secondary.
Yeah,
and they have some good players back there, but there's some kind of either communication issue or something's going on. Maybe it's a coaching thing, but you shouldn't have guys constantly out of position.
Right.
So.
Now, well, one of the strengths of the Lions is generally their kicking game because their offense is inept. The problem is their kicking game isn't really as good as it used to be. I can talk about a list of great kickers like Jason Hansen and Earl Mann, and the list goes on, but we'll go from there. I'm going to lead off with Candy on this one, though, and obviously she's probably dreading this topic, and there goes the head down. The Green Bay Packers and the Giants in the London game. Are the Giants for real, and will the Green Bay Packers turn it around, Candy? It's a two-headed question.
So I have to give props to the Giants. They obviously did well. They made the right adjustments at halftime. Packers, I can't blame this all on Aaron Rodgers. I can't blame this all on Devontae leaving. The Packers need to get into gel. They need to get into a rhythm. But they relied on their running game in the first half, and they decided to completely stop running in the second half. And I don't understand why they would get away from something that was working. I understand if it's not working and you're behind by a ton, you're going to give up on the running game, but your running game sets up your passing game. So if you stop running, your passing game's not going to succeed. Not in the NFL, and not with guys that, the team that was the Giants wanted it more than the Packers. It was the first time the Packers had played in London.
Right.
I thought it was really interesting that both teams, I think, went over on Friday, only 2 days before, and they both came back and they both play again this week already. Most teams get byes after traveling to London, but this year they're not. So I think that'll be interesting.
Well, the irony is the fact that they played the Giants in London. Now they get to play the Jets at Lambeau Field. So you get both New York teams in back-to-back weeks. All right, Steve, I guess I'm going to ask you the same question. Giants are real, and will Green Bay turn it around?
I don't know if the Giants are for real, but I think they believe in Brian Daboll. I think he's doing a fantastic job there. I mean, I'm looking at Daniel Jones. He doesn't look like the same guy from last year. And I think you can attribute a lot of that to Brian Daboll. We saw what he did with Josh Allen, up in Buffalo. I think Daboll's a really good coach. And, I think he's doing a great job there. In the preseason, we were kind of joking about the NFC East. On this show, we were calling the NFC least. And now you have a 5-0 team and 2 4-1 teams.
Yeah.
Are they all going to be able to continue that? That remains to be seen. But, I think the Giants are, they believe in their coach, and they're kind of playing fast and loose right now.
What about Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, they have so many new guys on the roster. I think it's too soon to hit the panic button up there because we know Aaron Rodgers can still do Aaron Rodgers things. They have a lot of new faces on that offense, and it's going to take time for these guys to be in the right position where Rodgers wants them when he throws the football. guys like him and Brady. I've watched Brady, for years in practice, and Rodgers and Brady are the same in the fact that they throw to a spot on the field, and they expect their wide receivers to be where that ball's going. Most of the time, you see them throw the ball before the guy even makes a break. And if that guy isn't there, the quarterback looks like he makes a terrible throw. But the fact is, that's where they're supposed to be. I think they're going to get it ironed out. I believe they will. It's just going to take some time. They do have a lot of new faces.
Yeah, I think the reality is that Aaron Rodgers should have gone to OTAs and spent more time with the offseason program, knowing he had new weapons to acclimate him. And we all thought that the Green Bay Packers defense would be better than it's shown so far. The Giants are really playing on house money, Steve, for the reasons that you talked about. Number one, Daniel Jones has never had a full-fledged number one target. And number two, you have an exceptional coach. I hope Daniel Jones has a chance to continue playing for the Giants instead of moving on from the guy. Give him an opportunity to go ahead and work with Dable. How many coaches has this guy had? He's had a lot. But again, in the case of the Packers, to me, Aaron, there comes a point where these OTAs do matter. I don't care if you go ahead and play in the preseason or not, but work with your new teammates when you've lost a guy like Devontae Adams so that you're not 5 games into it looking for answers. All right, Jennifer, I'll turn it over to you.
So, and I'm not trying to be rude with this question, but Candy, and this question is more to you. Do you think Aaron Rodgers, every single season for the last 3 or 4 years, I'm going to leave the Packers, is finally just taking root as carcinogenic in the Packers locker room?
I think it plays a role. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's come out now and really said that he wants to retire as a Packer. Now, whether that means end of this year or end of 3 years, 4 years down the road, I'm not sure. I think it really depends on the success he has. I think part of it was Nathaniel Hackett. We all talk, Nathaniel Hackett might not be having a great season as a coach of the Denver Broncos, but remember, he coached, Rodgers too, and changing coaches has an effect on you as a player as well.
I
keep saying we hadn't even thought about.
And I was just wondering, just because Aaron's lied by omission, he keeps talking about leaving. He's like that bad boyfriend that just won't go away at this point, seriously, at least Julius Peppers made his decision the first time he left the Panthers in a year. It took him a season. And to go join your man, Aaron. And, but mentioning Hackett, I keep telling my friend Jordan, you're not going to have the year you think you're going to have. New quarterback, new head coach. Give them time to gel. They also gave the house away for Russell. Mm-hmm. But give them a year or two, you'll be in the playoffs. Give it 3 years, you'll be back in the Super Bowl. Just do it. Give them time to rebuild. Anyway, back to this game. I don't know how in the world the Daboll is making a Duke quarterback looking like he went to an elite football school, but let's face facts. He's looking solid. He only missed Aaron's yardage of completion by 5 yards? Because Aaron had 222 yards and Daniel had 217. Now Aaron wiped the board with him everywhere else, but hey. But Daniel has something and someone that Aaron wishes he could have in Saquon Barkley, because Saquon really is the X factor. I equate him with my favorite running back, but I really respect Saquon a lot. I think the Giants are for real. NFC East is proving to be the toughest division in the NFL this year. So this is kind of fun to watch. And I cannot hate the Giants again. So it's pretty cool. Because I didn't like them while they had a particular player on their team. But but I don't know. I think it was a good game. I only watched part of it because I was 3/4 asleep and trying to get ready to go do stuff around my house and get ready for my game too. So,
All right, Mel, we'll turn it over to you. One more subject after this.
The Giants look good. They look good over there in London. I was impressed. But as long as they're going to go as Saquon goes, so as long as Saquon Barkley is able to stay healthy, then the Giants are going to have they're going to have an opportunity for success. They're going to go as Saquon goes, and Saquon has come back, and he's the Saquon that we've all known when he was at Penn State in his first year or two in the league before he got hurt. So he's back, and he looks great. Aaron Rodgers has no one to blame but himself for what's going on right now with the Packers. I mean, he took off all the money. I mean, when you take all the money, there's not much left for anybody else. So he has at receivers what they could afford to get at receivers. They don't have a savvy owner there. I mean, they're a publicly owned franchise. They don't have an owner there. So they don't have somebody, working behind the scenes, and they don't have it. So, he has what he's left with because he took up all the money. Aaron wanted all the money. He got all the money. He was crying. He was whining about this, that, and the other. And I don't know if he's all in. That's my thing. And I think Jen was kind of alluding to that a little bit. Whether or not he's all in. You just look at him. You look at his face when they have close-ups on him. It doesn't look like he's having a whole lot of fun. Tom Brady doesn't look like he's having a whole lot of fun, but that's because he's intent. He's competing. You can see he's competing. You can see Aaron. He just kind of got a lackadaisical attitude, and doesn't really care. Doesn't really seem to care if he's there or not. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Doesn't seem to really care whether he's out there or not. So, like I said, he has no one to blame but himself. But they do play in the NFC North. Although Minnesota looks good, the other teams aren't very good. So, worst case scenario, maybe they'll come out of there with a wild card position, in a position to get a wild card.
Okay. Final topic of the night. Jennifer, we're going to lead off with you on this.
no,
one.
I want to go last.
Okay. We'll lead off with.
I want to go last.
We'll go with Candy. Matt Rule firing. And then the second part of the question, does Steve Wilkes have a chance to get the job? All right, Candy.
I think Matt Rule firing was, and Jen, you're going to love me for saying this, overdue. I think it's interesting that some of these college coaches thinking that had success as college coaches, thinking that translated automatically into being a good coach at the NFL level. It's very different coaching kids that are there on scholarships that need to be there, as opposed to sometimes high paid men, but people that are, guys that are getting paid to do a job. I think and have different attitudes, different work ethics. Let's put it that way. And I think it was, that he just wasn't having the success that they needed and that they wanted. And it was long overdue. Now, the job is up. The job, interim job. Hey, if they do have success, I think they'll stick with him. But there's a lot of other coaches out there, too, that they could be looking at. So that's a tough industry. I would say that's even tougher than the college ranking, because there's a lot of openings now on even the college rankings for a good coach. So there's a lot of good jobs out there. So, and not as many good candidates, I don't think. So.
All right, we'll turn over to Steve.
Yeah, I agree with you, Candy. I think it was long overdue. And I think you make a great point. Some college coaches don't know how to transition the way they teach and the way they address professionals, the way they did with college kids. And there is a much different, hierarchy. Like in college, the head coach, he's the guy. You have a lot of veteran players in the NFL that have been playing for a long time, and you can't talk to them like you do, freshmen that are just coming on board. And we've seen that with some coaches, Urban Meyer being one, but other successful, very successful college coaches couldn't translate into the NFL. I think back to Nick Saban, Steve Spurrier. There's others. I mean, they were great college coaches. In fact, Saban still is, but he couldn't really make it in the NFL. He was a good coordinator with Belichick in Cleveland, but when he became a head coach, it didn't work out for him. And I think Matt Rule falls right into that. It seemed like his team had tuned him out all season long.
Well, the one that stands out a long time ago, Mel might be one of the few people that relates to this, is John McKay, formerly of USC,
Right.
won national championships. Bud Wilkinson's another guy. Now, to McKay's credit, he built it. He was working with an expansion team, and he did manage to get the Bucs to the NFC Championship game, and it's like the second or third year, I believe, under Doug Williams. But Bud Wilkinson never made it. Frank Cush, and the list goes on and on. And those are the three older timers that I remember that didn't. So, yeah, it could be a personality thing for sure. But, again, it's a different animal. All right, Mel, give your take on this. We'll go with Jennifer, and I'll have a few other opinions before we go to parting shots.
Well, at the end of the day, it's a crapshoot, whether you get a college coach or whether you get a coordinator or from the NFL or whatever the case may be. I mean, you're just taking a chance. Matt Rule never had a quarterback. That's if you don't have that position taken care of, it's going to be very difficult for you. He had a guy who did very well in the spring league, I think it was somebody he coached over at Temple, and he was trying to win with that guy that they brought back. I think when he came in, they decided to get rid of Cam. I mean, why would you do that? Give me a chance here. I know Cam, he may have been on the downside, but man, he's better than any other options out there. He's better than any other options they had out there. Give him a chance to work with. Then they tried to bring him back, and that really didn't work out. But he never had that position taken care of. Now we know he can coach. He did well at Temple. He did well at Baylor, if I'm not mistaken. That's where he came from. So we know he can coach. Yeah, there's a difference between coaching grown men versus young men. There is a difference in the way you communicate with them, but he wanted to try it at the highest level and see how he could do. It didn't work out for him. I guarantee you he won't be unemployed long because there's some jobs out there right now. I think Oklahoma they probably pulled the trigger a little too quick on their coaching candidate. And we already know, we've already talked about some other jobs that are available. So there's some interesting jobs out there, or he could just take the year off and not do anything and collect the rest of that $41 million or $51 million that he's owed from Carolina, because they paid him a whole lot of money to leave Baylor.
Well,
Steve
Wilkes, $40 million.
Every game left in the season, the playoffs and the Super Bowl, and he still won't get considered for that job.
Hey, Mel, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
You played for John Robinson.
Yes.
Who was one of the guys that did make that transition from college to the NFL. Was there any kind of –
Coach Rob was cool. Cool is the other side of the pillow, as Stuart Scott used to say. I mean, he was cool. He was a player's coach. I think I've talked about it before as far as how he dealt with us and as far as with the LA traffic and being late and stuff like that. And, come on in. Don't say, if you're a couple minutes late, come on in. Don't make a whole lot of, don't be a distraction. Come on in there. But if it becomes a problem, then we're going to have to deal with it. He believed in treating everyone like men. And that's how, and that's how he treated us. Like I said, he was real good to me and my family as far as allowing my family to go on some of those trips when we played over there in Germany and so forth and so on. But a real good communicator, real good teacher, and also had real good communicators and teachers as assistant coaches as well. So it was a pleasure to play for Coach Robinson, and he's one of those guys that did well. Now, we didn't win a Super Bowl there, but I mean, we did get to the NFC Championship game the year that I was there. But I think he did an excellent job as far as relating to the players, and then he went back, obviously, to the college game as well.
All right, so Mel, let's talk about Steve Wilkes. I know we talk about African Americans having an opportunity to try to become.
Whenever he can win the Super Bowl, he won't get considered for the job.
You don't think
he's part of the lawsuit, that's going with Brian Flores against the NFL. I was surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm happy he's getting this opportunity. I'm happy he's getting another chance, because if it wasn't for this opportunity, he probably wouldn't get another chance. Now, he can go out there and win the Super Bowl, and maybe somebody else will give him an opportunity. I'm glad he's getting an opportunity. But again, the team he had, the Cardinals, I mean, they weren't very good. Now he's getting the Panthers. They're dysfunctional. Your quarterback is hurt. You're coming out there with PJ. I can't think of his last name.
PJ Walker.
And the guy that was, in the spring league a couple years ago, I think, did really well. And what are his real chances for success and even being able to really audition for the job with the hand that he's dealt? I mean, he's dealt a bad hand. I just hope that he's able to, to get these guys inspired, have them play inspired football, at least keep the games close, and again, have an opportunity to audition maybe for a job down the road with another franchise.
Well, yeah, so I wanted to lead off with you. He was 3-13 with the Cardinals after 1 year, and then he was done in replay. So, all right, Steve, you want to take a comment on Steve Wilkes before we turn it over to Jennifer? With the last
like Mel said, he's dealt a pretty rough hand. I mean, it's going to be hard to be successful. I think if you're the ownership, you have to see how the players react to him. Right. If they're not going to steamroll their way through the rest of the year. I mean, they just don't have the personnel for that. Right. But if the players relate to him, if they play hard for him and they play hard for 60 minutes every week, that's something to keep in mind. If you add other pieces to the team next year, can this guy bring him up to the next level? And that's the big thing, but like Mel said, he's involved with that lawsuit. So anything short of a playoff berth, he probably won't get the job next year.
All right, Jennifer, now I am going to leave you with the last word on the subject before we move over to parting shots. Well, let me just say this before I turn over to Jen. I hope Steve Wilkes gets an opportunity, another head coaching job. 1 year, 3-13, doesn't get it. And I've seen crazier things happen during the interim situation where guys did get awarded a job, but the lawsuit certainly works against them for sure. All right. With that said, and like you guys alluded to, I don't have to go into extreme details. Matt Rule has $40 million left, and he's going to get paid all of his money from David Tepper. He'll be able to pick his choice of what job he wants, and there's a lot of good ones. And another guy I should bring up, Steve Spurrier, wanted to crack at coaching in the NFL. We saw that one didn't work out as well. All right.
We've heard him too.
So with that said, Jennifer, you do have the last word on Rule. We go to parting shots.
Okay, so let me actually start with Steve Wilkes. Steve Wilkes didn't have a shot in Arizona. He was hired after the draft. He was hired after free agency. He was given a similar hand that he was dealt here. However, I mean, he was just hung out to dry there. Like I was sad to see him go. I saw what he did with our DC here. I was happy for him. Sorry for the dog howling in the background. I think Steve will do a great job. I think David Tepper really needs to consider keeping him because Steve Wilkes is his fifth head coach in 2.5 years. Keep in mind, David Tepper came from the Pittsburgh Steelers. The entirety of the Pittsburgh Steelers has had 16 head coaches since 1933, 3 head coaches since 1970. Tepper needs to settle down. Steve Wilkes knows what the Carolina Panthers are all about. He has already brought back Keep Pounding. The first thing Matt Rule got rid of was Greg Olsen. Second thing, Cam Newton. Third thing, Keep Pounding. Now we send his ass back to school. Peace out. Steve Wilkes has already brought back Keep Pounding. I hope. And keep in mind, David Tepper is very liberal in allowing people. Like, I think he auditioned Cap like 3 or 4 times. Or tried Cap out 3 or 4 times. He had Eric Reed sign. Matt Rule got rid of Eric Reed too, which I thought was a huge disservice. Great dude. He lived in my old building, had multiple conversations with him. I could be dorky around him like I am. And I actually came up with a play one day and I pitched it to him. He's like, no, we can't do that. That's illegal. Very next week, the Buffalo Bills do that play. I looked at him in the lobby. He goes, I don't know how they got away with it. So can I see David Tepper keeping Steve Wilkes? Yeah, as long as he does a good job. Are we going to the Super Bowl this year? Absolutely not. Does anyone have those expectations? No. The expectations that we have are that Steve Wilkes is bringing back that fire. Because, interesting little known fact, the 3 weeks, including the Arizona Cardinals game, we had home games, with the exception of this past Sunday. We keep pounding through the stadium during the game, which is something we used to do. Sunday, we didn't do that. And you guys would see, especially right after we did keep pounding, you would see an injection of enthusiasm in the guys and the players, defense, offense, everybody, special teams. Like, that is our culture. Rule got rid of it. Rule's not known as a great coach, more as a culture change. He comes in and changes the culture of the schools and builds the team around changing that. Well, we didn't need the culture changed. We needed to start winning again. Matt Rule didn't understand this. Him getting rid of Cam Newton. My biggest issue with Ron Rivera was he never let Cam Newton heal. No one in a million years expects Cam Newton to be the exact same quarterback he was in 2015. Obviously, injuries, obviously, age, that all plays a difference. Should he still be in the NFL? Abso-freaking-lutely. I will die on that cross. 100% I will die on that cross. My father-in-law just said, give me a hammer and nails, because he thinks I'm wrong. But I know I'm right. However, Matt Rule going, you even have his boy Robbie Anderson going, it is what it is. I mean, Robbie has been his staunchest defender. Robbie's also, I believe, in a contract year. And so he's actually been catching 2 balls a game instead of 1, like he did last year. But I'm fine sending Robbie back to school with Matt, because he doesn't have the greatest set of he quit like 5 times this summer on Twitter alone. Steve Wilkes will be the culture change we need. He knows what we are about. He still has some core people that were there in 2015. Luke Kuechly was back today. Now he's played he's done some work with the Panthers. I think he scouted a couple of plays in the DC box. Because I've seen him in boxes with headsets on, and everybody in the stadium goes, Luke. Well, he was back today, and it looked a little different. So I'm hoping Luke's getting a shot at coaching somewhere with the Panthers, because the NFL needs Luke Kuechly as a coach. The NFL needs Luke Kuechly. We also have Christian McCaffrey, guaranteed he will not be as injured as much. Guaranteed. Matt Rule did not like Christian. Yeah, IR a dude for a rolled ankle. A rolled ankle. Really? A rolled ankle. I'm just saying. Then it's just a good thing. It's so good. So many major things. Matt Rule only gets the $42 million if he does not take another coaching job.
It's an offset. So, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. It's an offset. So he'll get the college coach. Yeah, it's Tepper's money. Like, and Tepper bragged about it when he hired Matt Rule. Keep in mind, Tepper also hired Matt Rule was an angry Tepper hire, because the coach Tepper really wanted went somewhere else. I forgot who it was. I think it was either Dayball or McCarthy he really wanted, or both of them actually. And they both went elsewhere. So Matt was an angry Tepper hire. All right, David. Eat it up. Sunk cost fallacy. Just eat it, baby.
I thought that was the coach that he wanted, because he paid him a lot of money to lure him out of Baylor.
He was mad. He was really mad because he was like hired 3 days after. Like, Tepper was turned down by multiple coaches who went to different places after Ron. Why it took so long? David Tepper didn't want to. I mean, I don't want to say he didn't want to listen to the fans. David Tepper didn't want to be wrong. He wanted to prove the fans wrong. Well, David, you lost a lot more than $42 million. I'm just saying. I don't know how much money he lost. I've been in the stadium. I've been there. It's been sad. Like, it just has. When your biggest burst of enthusiasm has been keep pounding, which is a good thing. Frankie Louisville and Christian getting the balls in the third and fourth quarter. Expect to see Christian have a blowout game. like balls to the wall. This was Sunday against the 49ers was his lowest performing game of the season with only 54 rushing yards. Christian gets over 100 yards without blinking. Like, so I think it'll be interesting to see what McAdoo's actual playbook looks like. It was obvious that we were using Matt Rule's 3 plays and you're out on the offense. I wish Matt Rule the best of luck in any other state except for the great state of North Carolina.
Matt Rule's going to be great. Yeah, he's going to be all right.
Yeah, I ain't worried about him. It's hard to feel bad for a man who's walking away with $40 million.
You won't have to have no chicken dinners for him. He'll be straight.
Yeah, he's good. And here's the thing, like, my husband and I lived in a building with a lot of players, and they would talk. I'm not going to call out names. They weren't happy. Matt Rule would walk down that corridor, stare you down, and not say a word. The only reason why he got Chuba was because his wife told him if he didn't get Chuba, they were going to have a fight in the draft. Matt told that to his players. His players told me.
Well, I heard it on national TV. They talked about it.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry. I don't tell my husband how to do his job. I really don't. I couldn't. He actually does something I couldn't understand at all. But if I understood it, I wouldn't.
So Steve, he's the homeboy. Like, he's homegrown. He went to school with Gary Richardson. I didn't know that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
But I think Robbie Anderson said it best in his interview today. Yo, this is old news. This happened Monday. It's Thursday. We've got other stuff to deal with. It is what it is. It's a tough business. You get paid a lot of money to either keep a job or to get fired from a job.
Yeah, and as it stands out, P.J. Walker, from what I hear, will be the starting quarterback at least this Sunday, as I understand.
This Sunday. I'm curious if there's another quarterback that won't be signed again, because I think there's another quarterback that was going to be signed again but refused to play for Matt Rule. Oh, yeah. Because if you go back and you look at the Washington football game against us last year, and there was one play in the second or third quarter. It was Cam to Christian back to Cam to Tommy Trumbull, TD. That being said, you fast forward to the next week when we're playing the Dolphins, and Steve, as you know, Cam and Miami, they don't really see eye to eye, right? They don't really get along together. I was already trepidatious about that game, to be honest with you, because I remember when one of the guys on the Dolphins yanked his chain when he was with the Pats.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was the maddest I've ever seen Cam.
Yeah, Cam's cool, man. Like, he'll get mad at himself, but he's pretty cool. Like, he's pretty chill. I ran into him a couple of times uptown. Like, we never spoke. I don't know Cam Newton. Let's make that perfectly clear. Like, I got excited. He held the door for me at Starbucks one day, and I was like, oh my God, I was face to face with Cam Newton. And but thank you, Candy.
Face to waist. Okay.
Because he like went at an angle like that. So like literally it was face to waist, like not lower, but like belly button waist. And I was like, oh, who is that? Oh shit. Right. But I could see him coming back. I like PJ.
I'd love to see him come back.
And the one thing Stephen A. Smith said about Cam Newton that I will always agree with, is one thing I've only agreed with Stephen A. Smith, to be honest with you. And that's sad because he graduated right down the road from me. But he said that Cam Newton, as a starting quarterback, but in the NFL, but he's not a starting quarterback for anybody else but the Carolina Panthers. And he's right. And Mac Jones's offense last year, and you'll know this, Steve, was actually built around Cam. All those one-year signs, yeah, it was built around Cam. Cam's dumbass not getting vaccinated is what did him in, even though it was never admitted to. And then even though he had permission to go to that doctor, he didn't, because Cam's first couple of games before he got COVID in 2020 with the Patriots, his numbers were stellar. He was one more touchdown away from breaking his own NFL record, which he still holds to this day. So what needs to change when he comes back? The media needs to change their attitude. Who cares what his hair looks like? Do y'all care? Do any of you care what his hair looks like or what he's wearing? As long as it's not Hitler paraphernalia crap. Like, I'm cool. Whatever you want to wear.
Well, as long as you
As
perform,
long as
it doesn't
it's
really matter.
all around a lot, I don't care.
Yeah, the main thing is perform. Whatever you decide to look
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't know, it's up to you.
But we all know. I understand. And you and I had a conversation one day, Scott, why Cam got frustrated with the media. They weren't giving him any props on what he was doing. Go look up the records, though. Look them up.
Right.
People still fight for freaking Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick's numbers were going downhill. Cap wasn't hurt. Cap didn't have a head coach that relied so heavily on him. He wasn't allowed to heal. And I love Ron Rivera. I was dying this cross too. I think Ron Rivera has the most integrity out of, I'd say, maybe 2 or 3 other coaches in the NFL have as much integrity as Ron does. But he and Cam are too dependent on each other. I get it. I'm glad Ron didn't take him up to that hot mess in Washington. I'm glad. That would have done Cam's career in completely. Hush. Sorry. My dog's agreeing with me. She doesn't know Cam either. But they this is still Cam's team.
Okay.
I hope I felt bad when Baker Mayfield came here, and I felt bad for Baker Mayfield because Matt Rule is not the coach to resurrect a career. He is not. He is one to try to kill a career. When he came, he had Bradbury, he had Luke, he had Greg, he had Cam, he had countless others. Out of that, he still got Shaq, and he still got D Brown. He still got CMC. He wanted to get rid of Christian. Guaranteed, those rumors are going to die down now. People will still call and try to get him. He also probably wanted to get rid of DJ Moore. He and Steve Smith did not get along. You going to try to mess with Steve Smith? Ha! Shut the hell up, Matt Rule. just don't even.
Well, you know what? With that said, okay, what I want you to do, Candy, is I want you to give some other company information. We go to parting shots. Well done, Jennifer.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
It's a good thing, and I think Steve Wilkes will be a really good head coach, and I don't think the lawsuit will affect David Tepper at all.
No, but you know what? Again, you're closer to the situation, Charlotte. That's why I wanted you wanted to go last, and now you.
Yes, thank you.
Extremely
very opinionated on it.
No, you were fine, Jennifer. You're in the market for which all of this is taking place. So when I see an individual is connected to that market, I tend, through all my years of doing this, just let them go. And you definitely brought lots of different insights. More power to you. With that said, Candy, why don't you give some ID, and then everybody gets a parting shot.
Please subscribe to us on the South Florida YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, South Florida Tribune, and just hit the subscribe. You can hear and see all of our great broadcasts, from baseball to 108 Stitches Baseball Talk to Inside the Pigskin to Sports Exchange to South Florida Tribune Podcast. We have No Limits, Real and Rare. We have all kinds of different podcasts for you. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, Google, any place you get your podcasts. If you want to follow us at Tribune South. Read our material at www.southfloridatribune.com. And if you'd like to advertise, 954-304-4941.
Well done. All right. Well, since you had the last topic, Jennifer, now you get parting shots.
Plain, short, and sweet. Bye, Matt Roll. Peace out.
That's it?
That's it.
I'll be darned. Okay. All right, Steve.
I told you it was short and sweet.
Well, we set this thing up well enough so you can get more details, so you go short and sweet. You know what? I'm going to go with the other part of the 3 Chicks in a Pod. Candy, give me your parting shots.
So my parting shot is on the college level. Wisconsin fired Paul Chryst after how many years? Right now, they put an interim tag on Jim Leonhard. Just want them to be prepared. If you do not hire Jim Leonhard as your next coach, be prepared that he's going someplace else, because he's had lots of opportunities, and he will continue to get opportunities if you don't hire him. And I'm not saying you necessarily have to hire him, but know that if you don't, he will go someplace else. Team played more inspired this week. Was that because Chris was let go? Jim, 39-year-old, inspired him? I'm not sure. Jury's still out. They were playing Northwestern. We'll see what the rest of the year has, but there was a reason why they named him interim and not head coach. So take your time, do your due diligence, and find the right coach for Wisconsin to compete with the likes of the Michigans and the Ohio States, please.
All right, Jennifer, I want you, before we go over to Mel and Steve, to let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Oh, thanks. Sorry.
That's all
You
right.
can find me on Twitter at Jenna Cheryl. You can find me on Facebook at Jennifer Matthews Lewis, or via Steve, Candy, Scott, and Mel. And you can also find me on Reddit at Jenna Cheryl, and you can find me on Sideline Sports. I have a multitude of shows that I do, including 3 Chicks in a Pod, Chicks in Salsa, that we will be launching as soon as I can get a freaking logo. Yeah, and that's with my girl Candy over there.
There
Got
you go. All right, Candy, you want to give some contact info before we head over to the other two males? Because I have a parting shot that we're going to end the show on. So go ahead, Candy.
You can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Follow us at Tribune South. Again, call if you want to advertise, 954-304-4941. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you ever have any ideas that you want us to do, show ideas, please email them to us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Thanks, everyone.
All right, Steve, give me your parting shot, then your contact information. We'll end it with Mel, and I have a very strong parting shot.
Yeah, I was just a little, I don't know how I feel about this. That whole Devontae Adams thing at the end of the football game. Excuse me. I know he shoved the, photographer. That's, shouldn't have happened. He should be fined for that. But I don't know about this whole police report thing, and now the guy suing. I mean, you're when you get on the field around these guys, and we talked about how competitive they are. Immediately after a game like that, you don't want to get too close to them, especially if they're on the losing end.
Right.
I don't know how I see this playing out, but filing a police report on a player like that, I mean, granted, what he did was wrong. He should be fined for it, but I don't know about him being charged with assault. I just think that's a bit much. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. You can find me, as this says, at SteveB7SFG on Twitter and Instagram, for Facebook, LinkedIn, and all the other stuff at Steve Balustrade.
Yeah, I saw that on tape. That to me looked like just a small shove that didn't warrant any more than what it did. And to me, it only constitutes as a money grab. But we'll leave it at that. I don't want to go any further on that. All right, Mel, we'll save my running back for last. Go ahead.
No, I don't think any college coaches got fired this week. I think one did step down. I can't remember what school that was, but everybody survived. But how about them Bruins, huh? How about those Bruins? Looked good last week against Utah, and that was a big game for them. Utah has been handling them pretty good the last number of years, and I know at the beginning of the year I made a comment about getting the App State coach, maybe come over there to UCLA, because of what they were doing to some of the power programs in the country. But now this is the Chip Kelly that I thought we were going to get. I mean, DTR looks really good. It's his 12th year in the program, so he ought to look good running this offense. But he looks really good. The offense looks good. Defense is playing inspired. Ken Norton over there coaching the linebackers. And I know they got a guy from the NFL coaching over there on the defensive side. That's a defensive coordinator over there. The Bruins look good, and I'm excited about it. They got a bye week this week, but they come back with another big game against Oregon, and we're looking forward to seeing what they're going to do against Oregon. That's going to be a big test for them. And Washington was a big test for them when they played Washington. That was the biggest test they had of the year. Then they passed that test. Then here comes Utah. They passed that test. Now here comes another one in Oregon, and they have to pass this test. So we'll see what they're going to do here in a week from this Saturday. But I'm excited about what the Bruins are doing.
All right, contact information. How they get all of you, Mel?
Get a hold of me at all the social media at Melfar Jr., like it says right there, at Melfar Jr., and find out what we have going on here in Georgia and also in Detroit for the youth at melfar.org.
All right. Well, I've given this parting shot a lot of thought, so I'm going to end the show on this note. Justice was not served in the Broward County legal system, as a jury decided to give Nicholas Cruz life in prison instead of the death penalty. A Florida law in 2016 prevented the judge from overturning this verdict. In the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas massacre, okay, this was just unbelievable. I remember being at KFC, in that area on February 14th, 2018. But when you think about it, okay, and I want to go over it again because I feel very strong about this. Again, I repeat, justice was not served in the Broward County legal system, as the jury decided to give Nicholas Cruz life in prison instead of the death penalty. So a Florida law in 2016 prevented the judge from overturning this verdict. In the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas February 14, 2018 mass shooting, 17 people died, including football coach Aaron Feist. Now, Candy and I were at Feist's funeral, and it was extremely sad. All right, the death penalty didn't happen, but the reality is, now that the verdict is in, I can only hope, okay, that when Nicholas Cruz gets, finally lands in the prison where he's going to go, that the inmates will take care of business. Because you know what? When they get wind of this thing, if they haven't already, justice will be served one way or the other. And I hope and pray, because to me, here in our community, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, Parkland, Florida is one of the nicer communities you can ever have. And to see this mass shooting with Nicholas Cruz become a Parkland's news lines and storylines should never have happened. I know mass shootings are a big part of what they do, this society, which is sad throughout the school system. And I know that some states don't have the death penalty, so therefore life in prison. But this was one time the jury, to me, should have given this guy the death penalty. And I'll reiterate one last time, I hope and pray Nicholas Cruz gets his due and the inmates take care of business. So,
Hey, Scott, wasn't that the deadliest school shooting also?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. Really, was
I
it?
thought it was.
Yeah, I thought it was too.
It wasn't a party shot, but I didn't want to get too political.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. Well, I always thought about, there's certain times get political. Having been to Feist's funeral like Candy and I were in that area, knowing the community, to me, you have a football coach. I don't normally go off topic sometimes when it comes to there was a little sporting connection, but I felt my heart to be able to bring this up was necessary to bring awareness to people about these mass shootings. These have to stop. They just do.
And it hit too close to home. We
Yeah.
actually live within 10 miles of that school.
Right.
And I understand you guys are real passionate about it. The problem, if there ever was a reason for the death penalty, or someone to receive the death penalty, this would obviously be the case. But too often there are a lot of people that have been wrongfully convicted that have been on death that are on death row. And the death penalty has shown not to be a deterrent. I mean, you look at the amount of crime that we have here in this country, it is not a deterrent. So to say that, that the death penalty is the end all be all, I'm not here to debate whether we should have the death penalty or not. But right. I will say that if there ever was someone who should have probably received the death penalty, this is a guy who should probably done it, because you're talking about our most innocent, our youngest and our brightest and our most innocent. And he confessed to it. Too often people of color get pulled over and, judge, jury, and executioner right out there in the street for a traffic ticket or, right. something ridiculous. I mean, you look at the other day, the kid that got shot in the McDonald's. Now, I don't think he was African-American, but he's a kid sitting in the parking lot of McDonald's. The police officer shot him 3 times, man, right there. Judge, jury, and executioner, because he was upset because the guy got away from him the day before. I mean,
and it was the wrong guy, too. It was just a similar car.
Yeah. I mean, regardless of the
wasn't even the same kid.
regardless of the situation, you're right, Mel. If there was ever a time for the death penalty, Nicholas Cruz should have gotten it. Period. It's obvious what he did. I think of the victims right now, their families, and they were looking for that outcome, and it never happened. Would that have been closure to them? I don't know. But the reality is,
and I hope I'm never, and I hope none of us are ever in that situation again, or never in that
Me
situation.
too.
I hope not either.
Kids back.
I just felt this was the appropriate time. The day that sentence was handed down, I wanted to make sure I had an opportunity to bring it up. That's the only reason why I brought it up in the first place. And rest in peace to all those victims for Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. That's what we can't lose sight on. And at some point, we can only hope that the mass shootings go away. Who knows if they ever will? But my heart is out to those families. And Broward County legal system, jury and all, simply got it wrong. That's all I have to say about the whole thing. Want to thank everybody for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. On behalf of Candy Ebling, Steve Ballesteri, Mel Farr Jr., Jennifer Lewis, the professional fan. My name is Scott Morganoff, the Motor City Mad Mouth. I want to think I'm the Motor City Mild Mouth with my parting shot, because this one really hits closer to home because it's in our area, and we went to that funeral, and it was not good. It just got you. But with that said, we'll leave you on that note. We hope you have a great week and look forward to catching you on next week's edition of Inside the Pigskin. Good night, everybody, and I'm proud of my crew. They were absolutely outstanding. They know what they're talking about. Share, like it, and so forth. Good night. Catch you next week. Bye now.